Good morning. Welcome to, actually, good afternoon to you, those on the East Coast. Welcome to RSBN Live. Once again, I'm Matthew Alvarez here in South Central Pennsylvania, not too far from Gettysburg, of course, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and about a couple hours from Philadelphia, as today is the day that we'll see President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, scheduled for 1 o'clock to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. In the meantime, we can go to a video that aired yesterday on an upload. So it was not live during our live event yesterday with Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine. So let's go to that video. This is a joint press conference from just yesterday. Take a look.
Alexander Stubb of the Republic of Finland, President Karol Nawrocki of the Republic of Poland, Prime Minister Jonas Gar. Well, thank you very much. We had a terrific meeting. We discussed a lot of things. As you know, I had an excellent phone call with President Putin that lasted for over 2 hours. We discussed a lot of points, and I do think we're getting a lot closer, maybe very close. The President and I just spoke to the European leaders. They were President Emmanuel Macron of France, President Alexander Stubb of the Republic of Finland, President Karol Nawrocki of the Republic of Poland, Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store of the Kingdom of Norway, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of the Italian Republic, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom of Britain and Northern Ireland, Chancellor Friedrich Merz, the Federal Republic of Germany, Secretary General Mark Rutte, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, President Ursula von der Leyen of the European Commission. We spoke to all of those great leaders. They're all great leaders. And we had a great talk with them after we were completed. We thought it was appropriate to speak with them. And our meeting was excellent. We covered, somebody would say 95%. I don't know what percent, but we have made a lot of progress on ending that war, which is really certainly the most deadly war since World War II, probably the biggest war since World War II. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff, who's here, and I'd like to thank Jared, who's here someplace. Thank you, Jared. And thank you, Steve. What a great job you've done. Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, and Marco Rubio is here. Thank you, Marco. And Pete Hegseth is here. Those two people are doing an unbelievable job. And the four people on this one are doing, I don't think anybody could do it, and we'll see if it gets done, but it's very close, certainly. Nobody would even have a chance of getting it to where it is right now. Nobody would have thought that was possible. So I just want to say we've done very well. We've had discussions on just about every subject, and that includes with President Putin before. And we went into great detail, and we likewise went into great detail today. And it was an honor to have you at Mar-a-Lago and have lunch. I hope you enjoyed the food. Your people enjoyed the food, I can tell you that. You're big, strong people. Your general over there looks like central casting. I want to also, by the way, speaking of generals, we have a great general, General Raisin Kane, who is here someplace. Thank you, General. Thank you very much. He's great. So, Mr. President, maybe you want to say a few words,
Yeah.
and then we'll speak over the next couple of weeks. We'll speak probably quite a bit, but we'll speak tomorrow. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything. Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank President Trump for a great meeting at this amazing place in his home in Mar-a-Lago. And we had a really great discussions on all the topics, and we appreciate the progress that was made by American and Ukrainian teams in these recent weeks. Special thanks to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and thank you for their engagement and full commitment, and also to our team, and first of all to Rustem Umerov and General Gnatov, and to all our teams. And we discussed all the aspects of the peace framework, which includes, and we have great achievements, 20-point peace plan, 90% agreed, and US-Ukraine security guarantees 100% agreed. US-Europe-Ukraine security guarantees almost agreed. Military dimension 100% agreed. Prosperity plan being finalized, and we also discussed the sequencing of the following actions. And we agree that security guarantees is a key milestone in achieving lasting peace, and our teams will continue working on all aspects. We also had a joint productive call with European leaders, like President Trump said already, and a lot of leaders, including NATO and the EU. And we agreed that our teams will meet in upcoming weeks to finalize all discussed matters, and we agreed with President Trump that he will host us, and maybe in Washington, European leaders and Ukrainian delegation, yes, in January. And Ukraine is ready for peace. And once again, would like to thank President Trump for a warm welcome and substantial discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Any questions, please?
Mr. President, we've heard some digits from President Zelensky, 90%, 100%. The U.S. Ukraine security guarantees, what number are we at right now?
Well, I think you can say 95%, but I don't like to say percentages. I just think we're doing very well. We could be very close. There are one or two very thorny issues, very tough issues, but I think we're doing very well. We made a lot of progress today, but really we've made it over the last month. This is not a one-day process deal. This is very complicated stuff, but I think when the president says 95, I think, could be close to 95%. Yeah, please, behind you.
Mr. President, have you agreed on the so-called free trade zone on Donbass? How to separate the sites? How to make the separation line? Who will be responsible?
The word agreed is too strong. I would say not agreed, but we're getting closer to an agreement on that, and that's a big issue. Certainly, that's one of the big issues, and I think we're closer than we were. Probably it's unresolved, but it's getting a lot closer. That's a very tough issue, but one that I think will get resolved. Yeah, please.
We are receiving some mixed signals coming from Moscow, even after you spoke with President Putin. Can you assure us that you have received written or any formal response from them?
Well, what was the issue? You have to tell me. What did they say?
So they are telling that Ukraine has to give up Donbass. Just a very recent statement coming out.
Well, that's what they've been asking for, and there's a dispute about that. So they're going to have to iron that out. That's an issue they have to iron out. But I think it's moving in the right direction.
If they reject or delay the solution or peace agreement that you try to achieve,
if something doesn't happen, if something doesn't happen? Yeah, go ahead.
May I ask?
No, go ahead. You're going to finish your question.
Will there be any step that the United States be prepared?
Well, we'll see. Look, we'll see. But I don't want to talk about that because I think we're getting pretty close. Yes, please.
May I ask the President of Ukraine
Please.
about territorial question? Mr. President, what is your take on Donbass status? Are you prepared to see it as a free economic or demilitarized zone?
No, we spoke about 20 points plan, and I'm happy that really our teams very close to results, and I agree with President Trump that our teams worked not one day and not one week, more than 1 month, beginning from Geneva, then 2 meetings in Miami, then we had Berlin, and now we have Mar-a-Lago. So this is a very difficult question. You know our position, so it's we have to respect our law and our people, and we respect the territory which we control. And of course, our attitude is very clear. That's why President Trump said this is a very tough question, and of course we have with Russians different positions on it.
And have you discussed referenda about?
When we speak about referendum, we spoke that it's one of the key. We can have referendum on any kind of points of this plan. I said that we can use referendum like for the plan, or we cannot use referendum. It's one of the key. We can use, this possibility of parliament to vote according to the law or to have referendum. Doesn't matter. This referendum, if the plan will be very difficult for our society, very difficult, of course our society has to choose and has to vote, because it's their land, the land not of one person, it's the land of our nation for a lot of generations.
They'll probably have to get their plan approved by Parliament or by referendum of the people. You would think that they want, I know they had a poll that it's 91% in favor of ending this war, so they want to end it like everybody wants. Russia wants it ended, everybody wants it ended, and we want it ended. I want it ended because I don't want to see so many people dying. We're losing massive numbers of people, the biggest by far since World War II. So we want to see it ended, absolutely.
President
Yes.
Trump, you said at the top that you plan to speak again tomorrow. Is that correct?
I might. It depends on what happens tomorrow. If there's an additional something to add, otherwise there's no reason to. We're in the process. Jared and Steve are working very hard to get something done, and if there's something that comes up, I'd speak, but otherwise I don't think there's any reason to.
In your mind, sir, what are the thorniest issues still unresolved after the?
Well, I think the land you're talking about, some of that land has been taken. Some of that land is maybe up for grabs, but it may be taken over the next period of a number of months, and you're better off making a deal now. Look, let me tell you, they have been very brave. They fought very hard and continue to fight very hard and do tremendous damage. But Russia would like to see it end, and Ukraine would like to see it. And I think it's time to end. And a lot of very brave people, a lot of people that are dead right now, unfortunately, because I've said, and nobody's disputed it, that if the election weren't rigged and stolen, 2020, you wouldn't have had this war. It would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Never was even thought to happen. And I spoke with President Putin. I got along with him very well, despite the Russia hoax, which was a total hoax. He used to say, what is going on over there? But it was a total hoax, as he knew and as I knew. But I spoke to him, and we'd talk about Ukraine. I've said it before. It was the apple of his eye, but he wasn't going to do anything about it. He didn't do anything about it until I was gone, and then a lot of really bad statements were made by people, by a lot of people, I guess, but by a certain president that we had who was a disaster.
Mr.
Yes.
President, do you anticipate going to Ukraine if you can get to an agreement? And I know
I
you
have no
said
problem
earlier,
with doing it. I have no problem with doing it. Don't anticipate it. Would like to get the deal done and not necessarily have to go. I've offered to go and speak to their parliament. And, if that would help, I don't know if that would help. I think it would probably help, but I don't even know if that's...
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I know.
Always.
So I'm not sure that it would be really necessary, but if it would help save 25,000 lives a month or whatever it may be, I would certainly be willing to do that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President.
No, behind you.
And how about
Where are you from?
from Ukraine?
Good, I had a feeling.
Public broadcaster.
Good.
And how about Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant? Have you discussed this question?
When what?
Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant.
Yeah, we discussed that at length today. As you know, it's in pretty good shape. It can start up immediately, almost immediately. And it's one of the things I discussed with President Putin. And they were talking about the nuclear plant. It's probably the biggest in the world, just about the biggest anywhere in the world. Can you believe that? And President Putin's actually working with Ukraine on getting it open. He's been very good in that sense. He wants to see that open. And he hasn't hit it with missiles, hasn't hit it with anything. It's a big danger to do that for everybody. But they're working together to try and get it. It can open very quickly. It's in pretty good shape. And the people there have been there for years. The people there running it. They have 5,000 people in that plant. Can you believe it? I learned that today. 5,000 people. It's the biggest plant of its kind in the world. And they're working together to get it opened. They could maybe get it open quickly. That's a big step when he's not bombing that plant. It's a big step.
Mr. President, in the readout from Moscow, they talked about the creation of some working groups that
Yes.
would be set. Can you tell us about what those working groups
Sure.
would entail? And also, if you wouldn't mind, what is the message that you will give to Putin when you speak to him after your meeting?
So
here?
the working group is going to be composed of Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, General Raisin Kane, Marco Rubio, and a few other people that we're going to be putting onto it. I think Pete Hegseth should be in that working group. He knows the territory very well. He's been fantastic at what he's doing. And they may add one or two people. And likewise, Ukraine's going to have some very good people that were at lunch today that enjoyed the lunch today a lot, more than they thought, right? But do you want to say who may be on your working group?
Yeah, we now, as I said, that we work with Steve and Jared. We worked our Rustem Umerov and also Deputy Minister Gislitz and also General Ignatov, and they will continue work in this group. And of course, if we will go further, and I hope that really we will have decisions in January, as I said, about all these documents, 6 documents, and of course, we will continue work on this, so they know what to do. Yes.
And that working group, by the way, importantly, will also then be working with Russia. Okay? Because to work with ourselves doesn't really solve much of a problem. So they'll be working with Russia. Yeah, please.
President, you said this morning you weren't a deadline guy. How long do you think it'll take to get this last little bit, as you say, finished? What are we talking
So
about?
if it went really well, maybe a few weeks. And if it went poorly, longer. And if it went really poorly, it's not going to happen. That would be a shame. There's that chance also. It's possible it doesn't happen. But, in a few weeks we will know one way or the other, I think. But if it went really well, but it could also go poorly. I mean, we could have something where one item that you're not thinking about is a big item breaks it up. Look, it's been a very difficult negotiation, very detailed. It's funny, I settled 8 wars. Some were going on for 35 years. And we got them settled in a couple of days. Some of them, one was going on for 37 years. I settled it in 1 day. But this is a very complex one.
Do you want to put odds on it? What the bad?
No, I think we'll get it done. I don't want to say when, but I think we're going to get it done. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, you in the past have suggested a trilateral meeting between both Presidents Putin and Zelensky. Is
Right.
that something that is also on the docket?
I see that happening, sure, at the right time. I saw a very interesting President Putin today. I mean, he wants to see it happen. He wants to see it. He told me very strongly. I believe him. Don't forget, we went through the Russia hoax together. And he'd call me, I'd call him, I'd say, can you believe the stuff that they're making up? And it turned out we were right. They made it all up. And despite that, we didn't get into wars and we didn't get into problems, but we weren't able to trade very much or any of that, which was a shame because, a lot of success could have been had by trading with Russia. They have great land, great minerals and other things, and we have things that they want very badly. But the Russia hoax, which was a terrible, made-up, fictional thing by Crooked Hillary and by Adam Shifty Schiff and bad people, sick people, they made it up. It was all a made-up hoax. But it kept us really from dealing with Russia, kept Russia dealing, from dealing with us. So, but despite that, we got along. And I don't know. I think we're going to get there. I know him very well. I think we're going to get there.
Did you discuss any time, location, meeting place?
Yeah, we're discussing a lot of things. No, look, I was on the phone with him for almost, I guess, 2.5 hours. They're just telling me now. That's a long time. We discussed a lot of things. We didn't talk about the weather. We weren't talking about what a beautiful day it is in Palm Beach, Florida. Yes.
Trump, President Zelensky mentioned maybe a meeting with European leaders back in Washington. Would that be in the next few weeks?
Well, in Washington or someplace, yeah. These leaders that I just read, these are great people. They've spent a lot of money on helping Ukraine. And look, they're doing it for themselves also, meaning their country, because Ukraine's a very important country for them in particular. For us, it's very important. To me, it's the lives. We're thousands and thousands of miles. We're protected by a thing called the Atlantic Ocean and lots of other places, to be honest. And they're not, they're right there. But we're working together with them as we should be. But I'm doing it to save lives. You know, we're not spending any money. Biden gave $350 billion away. And the president was nice enough to give us a contract to take out rare earth and things. So we'll see how that all works out. We have a contract, but we appreciated that. He was very good. But we'll see how that works out. But if you think about it, we're going to have. I really believe we're probably, Mr. President, by far closer than ever before with both parties. We had some times when he was close and President Putin wasn't. Then when President Putin was close and he wasn't, you saw that in the White House. But I think they both want to see it happen.
Mr. President, in your conversation with...
You're saying that, you've said multiple times that you want to stop the killing, and nearly 100 American citizens died in Ukraine on the battlefield. Yeah. What's your message to their families whose loved ones died fighting for
Well, look, I mean, the message is so obvious. It's what a shame. They died in a foreign country. And some are celebrated people. They're very celebrated. But so sad that a thing like that would happen. Yes, ma'am.
President Trump, obviously security is a major issue for the Ukrainians.
Right.
Did you offer any promises, any assurances today?
Well, I did. We want to work with Europe. And Europe is going to take over a big part of it, as you can imagine. You know, they're right there. But we're going to help Europe 100%. Like they'd help us. Yes, ma'am. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, when your conversation...
Who are you with?
Andrea Shalal with Reuters.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So in your conversation with President Putin, did you discuss what responsibility Russia will have for any kind of reconstruction of Ukraine post an agreement?
I did.
And
they're going to be helping. Russia's going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. Once, it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding, including supplying energy, electricity, and other things at very low prices. So a lot of good things came out of that call today. But they were in the works for 2 weeks with Steve and with Jared and Marco and everybody.
Did Russia agree, or did Putin agree to a ceasefire to allow a referendum to take place?
Not a ceasefire, and that's one of the points that we're working on right now. No, not a ceasefire. He feels that, look, you know, they're fighting and to stop, and then if they have to start again, which is a possibility, he doesn't want to be in that position. I understand that position. The president feels strongly about that or something, but I think we're finding ways that we can get around that. But I understand President Putin from that standpoint. You know, you have to understand the other side. And, you know, I'm on the side of peace. I'm on the side of stopping the war. So, but I think that's a problem that's going to get solved. Yeah.
Would people who live outside of Ukrainians who fled during the war be allowed to participate in the referendum?
What do you mean, people where live?
The people that left.
Who fled to Poland and Germany.
If we speak about the people who are abroad, who are not on the territory of Ukraine, you mean that in Poland, in Germany, we have millions of people. Yeah, they have a referendum in the same of elections. The same way how people come and vote, they have rights for this, and of course they have to come. That's why if we will come to referendum, yes, if we will come to such decision, people need infrastructure for this, and it's not simple. And that's why we spoke about it. It can't be in one day, very quickly. It's difficult because we need infrastructure. When you have millions of people, you have to build it in Europe, mostly in Europe for today.
President Trump, I know you sound an optimistic note here, but what happens in a few weeks if things sputter? What are you prepared to do?
They keep fighting, and they keep dying. No good. But if things don't happen, they keep fighting, and they keep dying. And we don't want that to happen. He doesn't want it to happen. President Putin doesn't want it to happen either. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thanks for lunch.
I don't know. Was it a good lunch?
Yes, sir.
There's no lunch. He walked in. He said, "This place is gorgeous." I don't think he wants to go to the White House anymore. That's the problem.
I'm ready to go to the White House.
I know. It is. The White House is a very special place, and so is this. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question you asked.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And good afternoon. Welcome back into Right Side Broadcasting Network. This is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side. Of course, President Trump to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll have that here in its entirety. Of course, just watching that meeting yesterday with Zelensky. You saw most of it yesterday when it comes to some of the Q&A with the press prior to the meeting. And then you saw that joint press conference right now live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, recorded yesterday, aired for the first time here, but also that was uploaded, as many of you have seen out there as well. Looking live right now at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Let's go to a couple of our sponsors, and then we'll get into some of the stories we're tracking out there. And also took a quick trip down there to Gettysburg, not too far from where I'm located. This is South Central Pennsylvania, to honor those that fell in the Civil War, and also remembering the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln. So we'll get to that in just a second. Also ran into a couple great patriots in Gettysburg. We'll hear from them as well. But let's go to All Family Pharmacy in the meantime. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Of course, use that RSBN 10 promo code. You get 10% off. You're talking ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, mebendazole, essential vitamins, the emergency kits, so much right there at your fingertips. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code. Instead of waiting in lines and at the pharmacy or trying to get a doctor's appointment, you can get all of the prescriptions that you need through an approval process with doctors at allfamilypharmacy.com. So a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to callsheet.com/RSBN as well. Of course, if you're looking to bet or trade or just check out a number of polls out there, you can do that by going to callsheet.com/RSBN, or you can download that app or check out that QR code that you see there on your screen. So a lot of topics, as you guys know, whether it's sports or music, weather, politics, faith, all the things. You can go to callsheet.com/RSBN. Great sponsor there. Same thing with angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas. If you'd like to go to angelpaste.com, check it out. Use that RSBN promo code. Always goes a long way. Some great products there at angelpaste.com. Longtime sponsor here, of course, and hiring military veterans. Always good to do that. But also to support our local businesses, our conservative local businesses as well, including great sponsors right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, before we get into the specifics about Gettysburg, as we are only about 25 to 30 minutes away from there. I went there this morning. It was cloudy, it was rainy, it was cold. But, at the end of the day, you're going there to, pay your respects to a battle back in 1863 in just 3 days. 51,000 casualties between the Union and the Confederacy. And then, of course, there's the speech that Abraham Lincoln delivered there. And so I checked out all of the sites, and I'll have a video here for you in just a second. And also interviewed a number of great people, great patriots, everyday Americans, just like myself, just like you guys, and talked about freedom, talked about a number of things. You'll hear how you have to hear what they have to say in just a minute. But let's get into some of the specifics that I'm seeing from places like the Jerusalem Post when it comes to this meeting with President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu at 1 o'clock at Mar-a-Lago. So what we're seeing is this is the 6th meeting between the two leaders since President Trump's second term took place, of course, in January. The Jerusalem Post reporting that there are several key issues that the two leaders will be talking about: advancing President Trump's plan for the Gaza Strip, also the Iranian ballistic missile program, the current situation in Lebanon, and the U.S.-Israel Security Assistance Agreement. That, according to the Jerusalem Post. Back here stateside, I looked on X yesterday. I saw Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene saying on X about the meetings, quote, Zelensky today, referring to yesterday, Netanyahu tomorrow, and can we just do America, question mark. That from Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I'll quote that again. Zelensky today, Netanyahu tomorrow, can we just do America? That from MTG. Speaking of meetings at Mar-a-Lago yesterday, of course, we just watched that joint press conference between President Trump and the leader of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. We're hearing, according to Carolyn Levitt and others on X as well, that there was a positive phone call with President Trump and Vladimir Putin of Russia about this war and this conflict. So we'll monitor that as we continue to do so. I mean, this is now pushing a full year of President Trump's second term, the first year, of course. So we've been tracking a lot of stories, been covering a lot of it for you here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Meantime, again, we're located not too far from Gettysburg as we await the president's meeting there in Florida. And this is a video that, takes about a minute of your time here, but it's something that is out of respect for the lives that were lost in 1863. Let's take a look at that video right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So that was the video from earlier this morning, obviously a number of monuments and just seeing the battlefield there in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. For those of you that have visited, quite the place, obviously a ton of history there. 1863, it was July 1st through the 3rd, some 51,000 soldiers, casualties there from the Confederacy and the Union. And thought it would be just nice to go there and pay my respects once again. And also, I've talked about it a lot, guys. The Gettysburg Address, of course, with Abraham Lincoln, and at the end of it saying, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this land. And that's what we're still fighting for indirectly these days when it comes to voting, prayer, and getting the word out that we have to win these midterms. We know what's at stake in this country. We don't want to look like any other country out there on earth. There are a couple good things going on in various countries, and actually a lot of great things going on in El Salvador, Hungary, Poland, and a few other nations out there. But we've been the leader, and we do not want to stop leading. We don't want to stop the freedom that we have here. We don't want it to go away. Speaking of that, I talked to a few people out there in Gettysburg. I had only about 20 minutes, and I'll tell you, these two great patriots that I ran into, great people, people just like you and me that just have a lot of things to say about our great country. So let's take a look at that as we await the president and the Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago.
My biggest concern is what the future looks like for my son and his family. Was he going to raise his children into? And that's a huge concern of mine. And I don't like the direction we were heading. And it feels like we're finally getting back on the right course of smaller government, more rights to the American citizens and to the taxpayers. Our justice system needs a lot of work. And too many people that, you can say the bad guys, can get off a slap on their wrist and go do it again and again and again. And that's what needs to change.
They're not getting, and there's no accountability, and I want to see accountability, and I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. I want accountability if you do something wrong. We should be able to say what we want to say, and if you disagree, you can disagree. I don't mind if you disagree. I want to, if you have guns, you ought to be able to keep your guns, and and not be able to be afraid. Don't be afraid to walk into the grocery store when you want to get groceries. We'd lose a lot of our rights, I think. And if the wrong people get in charge, and there's wrong people on both sides of the aisle too. I mean, I don't really say, oh well, Republicans are just great, because there's some that aren't. And the Democrat Party of today is not like it was back when JFK was alive. It's not the same thing. I mean, the Constitution, the Founding Fathers knew what they were doing, and they weren't political really. They were just men they were just common people. And they paid a heavy price, a lot of them, for what they did, signing that paper, and we broke from the British, and that's what we needed to do. And here's something that's really, this is an interesting story. And I don't know if I have the grades right. My great-great-grandfather was Jacob Mickley. Did you ever hear of him? He was the wagon they loaded the Liberty Bell on to take to Allentown. Now, it didn't make it quite the whole way till the axle broke, and then they had to get another wagon to take it in. But that was my great-great-grandfather, and I have documentation of it, So that's kind of a neat story.
So yeah, pretty cool stories out there. That was Carol Rebert of Gettysburg. And I was actually on my way driving back from Gettysburg, stopped for a restroom break, and then I saw the vehicle there that she was in, and had the "We the People" flag on there, and the Gadsden flag, and all of that. "Don't tread on me," that kind of thing. So I said, well, let me interview her, and it worked out. And she had some great things to say there. But quite awesome to hear the stories from "We the People" all across this country. As you guys know, it's like, that's what we do at Right Side. It's what conservative media is about, is the people. I mean, if you look at just what Nick Shirley just did in Minnesota, it's all about uncovering that fraud out there, and also keeping the public opinion aware of what's going on, because we know what's going on the left side of history, and it sometimes can be a Republican saying things. As we know, they're called rhinos, of course. So we want truth, we want common sense, and we don't need to make it confusing. We don't need to get all technical about it. We all want the same thing, as humans do. I mean, no matter what, if you're in China right now, and you see the government that's over you, you simply want your freedoms, but you can't have them there, right? Well, we don't want to get even close to that here in this country. And unfortunately, we saw that under the Biden regime. We're seeing that across the pond in Europe. And that's what we're really concerned about, in my opinion. And I just spoke to two people out there. And of course, we talked to a lot of other people, and we see a lot of comments come into the network here and on my personal social media pages. So, I'm just kind of reflecting what you guys are saying out there, because it's the same opinion that I have. It's not rocket science to say, it's common sense to have law and order, or it's common sense to have the Constitution as the law of the land. But if anybody comes against that, that's when we, the people, have to speak up, vote, pray hard, get the job done. Because we don't want to lose any of that ever in this country, of course. But anyway, let's get back to it here. Let's go to one of our great sponsors as we await the president there at Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach, Florida. So let's go to covepure.com/RSBN. Of course, drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. If you're into tap water, this might not be the best product for you, but I don't think there are that many people that enjoy the tap. If you do, okay, cool. But 99.9% of chemicals, or these different solids that may go through the tap, well, that gets taken away when it comes to this filter with Cove Pure. So you can have healthier water, better tasting water, than no aftertaste. You know how sometimes maybe at a restaurant it's just tap water, and it's, I don't really like it, to be honest. This is why I love Cove Pure as well. But you can have cold, warm, and hot water as well. You have that beautiful, sleek design right there on your kitchen countertop. Right there, covepure.com. And for that limited time, as you see there, $250 off for the holiday special. So you have that for this sale for a limited time. A great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's also go to Tax Network USA, 800-357-1415, the number, as you'll see on the screen in a second, but also tnusa.com/RSBN, because at the end of the day, if you're looking for that financial peace of mind, you can get that with Tax Network USA. Say you missed your 2018 taxes. Well, if you call them, they can help get you on the right plan to get that taken care of. So tnusa.com, a great sponsor here, Tax Network USA. Let's also go to Venice AI as well. If you're looking for a AI style of virtual assistant, this is the spot for you, because first of all, the sleek design is just the first part of it, but the encrypted messaging and all of that, you're able to have encryption with your conversations. A lot of these other AI style personal assistants, they definitely don't allow that. They can maybe censor or check out different things on the app. Well, not with Venice AI. This is a great sponsor, great product as well. As we are slowly getting into that AI world, I know a lot of you will say, nope, it's not for me. But a lot of you are also saying, well, hey, if it's going to be something positive and do something good, well, then AI could be a great thing. So Venice AI, you see it right there, venice.ai/RSBN. Great sponsor right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so it's Monday, December 29th. We're getting close to New Year's, of course. That's coming up around the corner. Looking forward to that. In the meantime, it's 12:42 Eastern Time. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez, live in South Central Pennsylvania, of course, my home state, here for the holidays with the family. Not too far from Gettysburg, Harrisburg, 2 hours from Philly, 2 hours from DC, an hour 45 from Baltimore, 3.5 hours from New York City. So obviously a lot of big cities right in this region. Just imagine being brought up in this area versus maybe in the South or Southwest or the Northwest or in the Midwest, But I was able to travel a lot, of course, whether it was a missions trip, either in this country or around the world, but also through all of the local media stations that I've worked at in various states across the union. So I've been able to live, I believe, in every time zone except for the West Coast, the Pacific time zone. So met a lot of people and interviewed a lot of people. And of course, bringing up all sorts of stories here for this country that are all about freedom over the years. But the problem is you wouldn't always be able to air all of the stories because, of course, the mainstream media, they don't like the truth. They don't want you to talk about all the good things going on in the world. They want you to always go with the bad stories, that kind of thing. But anyway, glad conservative media is a thing. Glad you're here with us as we are awaiting President Trump to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at 1 o'clock Eastern time, so about 12:45 there on the East Coast, and looking forward to seeing that meeting. I know a number of you are watching, and a number of you are saying, well, what about our country? What about America first? And that's exactly what Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene just said yesterday on X. She said, quote, Zelensky today, Benjamin Netanyahu tomorrow. What about America? She was saying that. I'm going to go right to that quote so I make sure I don't get that incorrect here. But she said, Zelensky today, Netanyahu tomorrow. Can we just do America? So that's what the representative of Florida is saying. A number of people agree with that. But at the end of the day, what we're looking to do is to win for our country. And part of those victories would come to pass if we have, of course, a number of people that have broken the law. There's evidence and there's receipts of that, whether it's the 2020 election, whether it's the J6 stuff, whether it's all the lawfare against President Trump and we the people over the Biden regime. That's one way of saving the country. Two, securing our elections, having voter ID, same day voting, paper ballots, all the things, right, to secure the elections, especially for the midterms, which are somewhat around the corner. I know it's still November of 2026, but one of the most crucial elections of our lifetime. Also, keeping our constitutional rights. These are the three main things that I've been looking at. And I've kind of seen from what people are talking about out there that they want to see from the administration, on top of all the great wins when it comes to the National Guard in D.C., this securing of the southern border, the tariffs, all the things that can help the economy. But we're looking at a number of things to save this nation. So, in 2029, we're not looking at a Newsom takeover and us losing our rights. I mean, that's maybe what we're facing in just a few years from now if everything isn't done right for these next 3 years plus. So anyway, let's go to a few sponsors. We'll talk about some of the things that I saw in the Jerusalem Post as per what the meeting today will be about between President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. We'll get to that in just a second, but let's go to a couple of those sponsors right now here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I believe All Family Pharmacy is the next one. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. So you can save 10%, of course, by using RSBN10 as the promo code. That'll get you the 10% off, but you're going to get ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. You're also looking at mebendazole. Say those three times fast. But anyway, my point is you have a lot of choices there with the medicine that you can choose from. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, a great sponsor here at Right Side, but also the efficiency of the matter. You're able to get these medications shipped directly to your door instead of waiting in some pharmacy line or maybe going to a doctor's office, that kind of thing. You can get these medications approved by a doctor and sent directly to your door. Let's go to our next sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, mypillow.com/RSBN. Of course, the great Mike Lindell and the great products at MyPillow. So just go to mypillow.com/RSBN. You can check it all out. A number of great products there as well. I know my family and I, we have a number of those products. You guys do too. So let's order a few more and continue to support that great company. And also, of course, Mike Lindell running for governor of Minnesota. Talk about turning the state around. We saw what Nick Shirley has been uncovering there with the amount of fraud going on. But we're looking at states like Washington State as well, seeing that happen there, and probably a number of states. So we have to see the receipts and the evidence, but that's what Nick and the crew are getting. Great to see that. And we'll always talk positively and prop up, even if nobody needs propping up. It's just talking about it to keep it in the news cycle, because we know the mainstream media is not going to do it. So it's up to conservative media to speak on behalf of we the people. We're out there with you guys. And if you're just joining us, we're going to go back to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania in just a minute. Before we do, let's talk about the fact of donating to Right Side. If you'd like to donate to us, all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. Text RSBN to 801-801. And of course, rsbnetwork.com/donate. So you have a number of ways to check that out and to donate to the network if you'd like. All right. Before we get back to Gettysburg, let's go to West Virginia. That state, all red, of course. Every county voted for President Trump in 24. Same thing with Oklahoma. But let's go to Senator Chris Rose. Spoke with him some time ago about a number of topics in West Virginia. So let's go to that interview as we await the president at Mar-a-Lago.
And joining us now on Right Side Broadcasting Network is West Virginia Senator Chris Rose. Sir, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Definitely. Do you have any update on National Guardsman Andrew Wolf? I know we spoke the other day about that, but what's the latest that you know?
So the latest is National Guardsman Andrew Wolf. Positive updates coming from his family. Obviously continuing asking for the prayers to continue to see this miracle develop, but he's getting stronger by the day, starting to look more and more like himself each and every day, but still not out of the woods yet. Will be in acute care for approximately 2 to 3 more weeks, but seems to be getting stronger, seems to be healing. I mean, it's obviously a long road ahead, but he seems to have the will and the fight, and obviously we're watching God perform a miracle right before our eyes. But obviously continue to throw up the prayers to keep his family in your prayers as well as they continue to go through this. But what an amazing family. What a strong, young, brave hero and a tremendous family. And this is, This should have never happened, but to watch this family's determination and this young man's grit is something to truly behold.
It is definitely, and always good to pray and ask God for a miracle, especially in these kind of situations. Also, there's so many topics to talk about out there outside of that tragic situation there, but hopefully, he'll come through. When it comes to God, family, country, and freedom, we talked about this the other day in Pennsylvania, but it's something to always remind people about, like, why do we do what we do, right? I know that I do that for God, family, country, and I know you do the same thing. So can you talk about why you do that?
Absolutely. So, faith, family, and freedom, support, loving our God, supporting our families, defending our country. It's everything. It's at the very foundation of the existence of this country. It's why it's prospered for 250 years. God set aside this special land. Reagan, President Reagan used to talk about it a lot, that God set this place away to the side in a special type of way as the last bastion of freedom, hope, and Christianity. And he's absolutely right. President Trump has been revitalizing that. We call it making America great again. And I fully support his efforts to do so. And we definitely need to get more people elected in our party that is willing to help him with that agenda. But it's in the very fabric of each and every community. We were founded upon the biblical Christian values in each and every town. It's why we have been the greatest nation in the history of the world. Our values, even for those that come to this nation that may be of another faith, our society was built upon the Ten Commandments. Our society and law and order in this country was built upon Judeo-Christian principles, and that's why we have the greatest nation on earth. And there have been those for decades that's been trying to undo that and attack that. But that's why we do what we do. That's why I ran for office, was to put a stop to that and restore our great country. And a huge part of that is restoring our faith in God.
Yeah, amen. I mean, that's the first priority out of all the priorities. There's so many things that we need to do. But to be able to know that, God will do his part, but we also have to do our part. So let's talk about that a little bit as well, about the midterms coming up. Of course, a huge election for our country. We have to pray, but we also have to get out the vote. What other things do you think will really rally the base and rally the majority of the people that voted for President Trump for 3 straight elections?
Well, so Trump campaigns on it a lot. Promises made, promises kept. You've never seen a more secure border than right now. You see the border crossings that are all-time lows. You see deportations of these violent criminals is through the roof. He's taken on the drug cartels. He's stopping all this stuff from coming into our country, and he's delivering on that. And I think you're going to see a lot of big economic wins to start to happen. We have the tariffs going on right now with China and a lot of these other bad actors that have been ripping us off for decades, these horrible trade deals that were one-sided. And, they led to America's deficits. You're starting to see manufacturing come back to the United States. And West Virginia is starting to land some of that, as many other states are as well, as what the announcement when we were talking the other day in Pocono. But, we're starting to see those jobs to come back to this country. We're starting to see wages grow again in this country. You're not seeing the inflation from Biden and his terrible economic policies, but the stagflation on wages. You're starting to see inflation be under control, but wages going up. And that's exactly what the American people voted for. They wanted America to be put first. They wanted good paying jobs, and they wanted their country secure. And we're delivering on that all up and down the ballot. But we definitely need to give President Trump some more help to even take this even further, because he's already the greatest president of our lifetime and will probably go down as one of the greatest ones in American history. I have no doubt about that at all. But we absolutely have to take these midterms seriously, because the other side is going to be motivated. When they lose an election, they come out the next one swinging, and we have to be prepared for that. And President Trump won't be directly on the ballot, but he's already committed to coming out swinging in the midterms to try to help us deliver a big MAGA red wave.
And then on top of that, speaking of delivering, can you talk about some of the legislation, or whether you sponsored or co-sponsored any legislation over 2025 that you're really proud of, that the people of West Virginia, your constituents, are saying, thank God for Senator Chris Rose?
Oh, so absolutely. So one of the very first things that I campaigned on, and I took a state Senate primary that was a little bit under national spotlight, took on a 2-term incumbent, was outspent 25-1, and was able to swing the district 60 points in a primary in just 4 years amount of time. And we pulled off one of the biggest financial upsets in political history. But we actually closed all loopholes for the transgender drugs for kids. You've heard President Trump talk about the attack on our children with that woke agenda. Well, we put a stop to that here in West Virginia. There is absolutely 0 loopholes. We completely shut down. There will be no transgender drugs or surgeries for children in West Virginia. I was proud to be the lead sponsor on that in my very first year as a freshman. It's a heavy lift, but we were proud to deliver it. But we expanded Second Amendment rights here to where even in times of emergency, they won't be infringed upon. Also introduced a constitutional amendment to do away with personal property taxes here in West Virginia. That one didn't get across the finish line, but I'm still very proud to champion that. But you know what? It didn't pass this past session, but this upcoming session, our governor's even touting that. So, sometimes legislation takes more than 1 year to get through. Now we got our governor on board with that same idea. We have our Senate president and our House of Delegates Speaker pushing it as well. So, I mean, we're having progress made on that. And we're also pushing to eliminate the state income tax. We introduced a bill last year, but now we have people wanting to do a special session to make the triggers even more aggressive. So we're definitely winning. We're actually setting the agenda here in West Virginia, and I'm very proud to do so and very thankful for the support. I've only been in there 1 year, but we're seeing a big difference. West Virginia is a rising power in this country. We're America's best kept secret, and soon the whole country will see it.
And then on top of that, every county voted for President Trump in 2024 in West Virginia and Oklahoma, the only two states that happened. It looks like the Mountaineer State is a place that, people in that part of the country might think about moving to, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we're definitely called Trump country. We voted, all 55 counties voted for Trump in 2020 and 2024. So this is definitely Trump country. This is MAGA country. And we're starting to see more people moving into West Virginia than moving out. You didn't see that under the 90 straight years the Democrats ran the state. But under the 10 years of Republicans, especially in the last few years under the MAGA Republicans, you're starting to see a net inflow as opposed to people leaving. And that's due to the America First policies and the America First movement that President Trump kicked off. And we're happy to, enforce, to implement it here on the state level. It's been truly wonderful for West Virginia. And we definitely would take anyone who, is conservative America First. We obviously, there's some counties in Virginia and Maryland that are disgruntled with how their states are going. And there's even some talks of some measures actually going into place for them to vote to move across state lines, and we'll see how that develops. But there's also a lot of them talk about moving here altogether, and we welcome anyone that's seeking freedom, anyone who's God, family, freedom. We definitely welcome those people in West Virginia with open arms.
That's awesome. Last question, a very serious question: Thundering Herd or the Mountaineers? Have you ever had to pick when it comes to your favorite football team there in college football?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, WVU is my district, so let's go Mountaineers. Always have to pull for the home team. I do pull for Marshall, the Thundering Herd, when they're not playing WVU. But at the end of the day, the good old blue and gold, you just can't get any better than that. And I'm telling you right now, Coach Rich Rodriguez is back. We just had a huge recruiting class, and I'm telling you right now, WVU will be a force to be reckoned with next year.
And sir, if my family and I are passing through West Virginia or around during fall, I would love to get to a game at West Virginia.
Absolutely. Hit me up. We can set you up, man, and you'd have a great time.
That'd be awesome. Thank you, sir. And West Virginia Senator Chris Rose, thank you again for joining us live right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
As always, it's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
To interview Senator Chris Rose of West Virginia there, and a number of great patriots, out there on the streets. I mean, we interviewed some people today. We'll show you that in just a minute. Literally this morning before this broadcast, based in South Central PA, just for this holiday on location live reporting, but not too far from Gettysburg. And it's always that speech that just rings true. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the land, from Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. So we're going to go back to Gettysburg in just a minute. Before we do, obviously, we're awaiting the live feed there from Mar-a-Lago. As soon as we see that, we'll take you there live to Palm Beach, Florida. This time, President Trump meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. So we'll take you there as soon as we see that live feed. In the meantime, let's go over a few sponsors. Without these great sponsors, we wouldn't be able to bring you all the live coverage that you guys have seen over several years. Let's go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you're feeling a little under the weather or you just want to stay prepared, this is the company to do that with, because allfamilypharmacy.com, the independent boutique style thing, the mom and pop style thing, that is what America loves. I mean, at least I do. But this is a great company here. I mean, I remember a couple of years back, I had COVID. My wife had COVID. We didn't have ivermectin on hand. Well, you can have it on hand now with allfamilypharmacy.com. Once you get approved through the doctor there, the number of doctors that work at allfamilypharmacy.com, but they have more than ivermectin. They have hydroxychloroquine, they have mebendazole, NAD+, all sorts of essential vitamins and supplements. They have emergency kits. There's just a lot. So at least if you weren't even interested in something like this today, why not at least go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, kind of peruse and browse and say, well, let me give this a try. And then go ahead and work on it from there. So again, save that RSBN 10 promo code there too for that 10% off. Let's go to callsheet.com/RSBN. Of course, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. A lot of people tracking what Call Sheet tracks, when it comes to all the polls that are out there. So just go to callsheet.com/RSBN, or you can go to that QR code you see on your screen, or you can also download the app. So there's 3 ways to access Call Sheet. Now, if you want to bet or trade, that's a place to do it. But if you don't want to, and you just want to check out the polls and talk about it and pass the word along of the various polls that are out there. Of course, this one that you see there is more of a fun sports one, but there's a lot of different topics on there that you can choose from. So just go to callsheet.com/RSBN for more information. Also, Angel Paste down in Spring, Texas, the flagship product that you see there on your screen, the Miracle Cream. Well, there's a lot of different products there that you can choose from as well. And at checkout, use the RSBN promo code. You get that discount. Always good to get a discount. All right, angelpaste.com. All right, so this is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We are live in South Central Pennsylvania as we are getting ready to go to Palm Beach, Florida. I checked the weather yesterday in Palm Beach. A toasty 76 degrees and sunny. Up here in the Northeast, let's just say it's not that. But here's the thing. Great people. I was born in Pennsylvania. My wife was born in PA. It's a great area with a lot of great people. And on top of that, throughout the whole country, I traveled a lot, as you guys may have seen over the campaign season. You saw Robert McNeely out there. You saw Megan Kohler. You saw Christina Loren and many other colleagues over the years. We just connect with you guys because we want to hear what you have to say. Why? Because that's the truth of what we, the people, are saying, right? That there's no censorship with that. It's straight up direct from you to the country, not only to the country, but to the world. There are people that say hello on My Truth Social or X, or same thing with RSBN. We all see people from England or Australia, or I believe it was Nigeria one time. I mean, there's people that are watching these live broadcasts, especially when there's an international scene like today, where we saw yesterday with Zelensky from Ukraine, today the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And of course, we're reporting the news. Of course, we could share opinions and all this other stuff, but today we're sticking to the facts of what we're about to see in Mar-a-Lago. So as soon as we see that, we'll take you there live. On top of that, we know that the president usually has the Q&A after the meeting. But if it's anything like yesterday, it was all reversed. The Q&A happened right at the beginning when Zelensky showed up there to Mar-a-Lago. And then there was a mini meeting inside that the cameras had access to. And then there was a joint press conference that kind of ended the whole thing. So whatever we see, we're going to bring it to you here live. And if for some reason there's another event that's a little bit later in the day, we'll always upload that. So you can count on that right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, let's do this. Let's go back to Gettysburg quickly. For those of you that just joined and you did not get to see this, it's only about a 2 or 3 minute video, but the first video is about a minute long. It's from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And earlier this morning, it was a little bit rainy, cloudy, a little bit cold. Woke up at about 7:30 Eastern time and said, you know what, let me go down there. I want to go down. I want to pay my respects once again to the bloodiest battle in the American Civil War. More than 51,000 casualties between the Union and the Confederacy. And that was only over 3-day time span. July 1st through the 3rd, 1863. And then when I'm down there, I always want to go, and this is probably my 3rd time doing this, only my 3rd time. For those that are in the region, you may have visited many more times, but I always want to go where Abraham Lincoln stood and spoke the Gettysburg Address. Powerful, powerful words. Let's return to Gettysburg right now for that minute video, and then I'll be right back and I'll share with you what some of the people had to say in Gettysburg. Again, that was about 8:30 this morning in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And then after that, I wanted to, speak to a few people, just hear what they have to say about we the people. All the basics. This is the kind of stuff, guys. It's common sense, right? You think about the Constitution, all right? You think about Independence Hall in Philadelphia. You may think about the Civil War, and you think about history of our country and all of the things. But in the meantime, as the mainstream media goes 98 miles per hour, reporting false narratives and lies and stays away from the basics, stays away from common sense, stays away from God, family, country, freedom, truth, justice, and the American way, stays away from all the good stuff. Conservative media says, no, not on our watch. We're going to talk to the people and hear what they have to say. So let's listen in as we interviewed two people just earlier today in Gettysburg.
My biggest concern is what the future looks like for my son and his family. Was he going to raise his children into? And that's a huge concern of mine. And I don't like the direction we were heading. And it feels like we're finally getting back on the right course of smaller government, more rights to the American citizens and to the taxpayers. Our justice system needs a lot of work. And too many people that you say the bad guys can get off with a slap on their wrist and go do it again and again and again. And that's what needs to change.
You're not getting, and there's no accountability, and I want to see accountability, and I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. I want accountability if you do something wrong. We should be able to say what we want to say, and if you disagree, you can disagree. I don't mind if you disagree. I want to, if you have guns, you ought to be able to keep your guns and, and not be able to be afraid. Don't be afraid to walk into the grocery store when you want to get groceries. We'd lose a lot of our rights, I think. And if the wrong people get in charge, and there's wrong people on both sides of the aisle too. I mean, I don't really say, oh, well, Republicans are just great, because there's some that aren't, and the Democrat Party of today is not like it was back when JFK was alive. It's not the same thing. I mean, the Constitution, the Founding Fathers knew what they were doing, and they weren't political really. They were just men they were just common people, and they paid a heavy price, a lot of them, for what they did. Signing that paper, and we broke from the British, and that's what we needed to do. And here's something that's really this is an interesting story. And I don't know if I have the greats right. My great-great-grandfather was Jacob Mickley. Did you ever hear of him? He was the wagon they loaded the Liberty Bell on to take to Allentown. Now, it didn't make it quite the whole way till the axle broke, and then they had to get another wagon to take it in. But that was my great-great-grandfather, and I have documentation of it, So that's kind of a neat story.
Stories there. I could have talked to Carol Rebert of Gettysburg for another hour, but I had to get back here and get on set. But the point is, that's what I'm talking about, is hearing from we the people, letting them say what they want to say, airing it here, especially when it comes to common sense stuff, right? I mean, that's what we want in this country, is we the people leading the way, having representatives that do what we want, and that's the ideal thing, right? Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, but what we know is this, that it's great to speak with people, to hear what they have to say, and that's part of what journalism is. Sometimes a lot of people are coming across in a way that's not connected to truth, not connected to what the people are actually saying. They don't have their finger on the pulse. It's just all over the place. But when you stick to the basics, you really can't go wrong. You don't need to recreate the wheel with this. Maybe with technology, sure. I'm going live right now, not at a multi-million-dollar studio, but who cares? What we care about is the truth being able to be broadcast on platforms like Right Side Broadcasting Network, like Truth Social, like X, like other conservative outlets. A shout out to all the podcasters out there. A shout out to Nick Shirley, who went from 300,000 followers on X to 50 million, it seems like, overnight. Great, good. Let's keep that going. More Nick Shirleys, more conservative media, more of the truth. I'm a big fan of it. I'll applaud it. Let's keep it up because we have to. It's not just because, oh, look, we're talking about faith and freedom over here. It's about the information war. It's the public opinion that matters. And for so many years, we know that the left-wing media and the Democrat politicians and some Republican politicians have wanted to keep truth away from you. And they didn't cover certain stories in the media just to keep it away from you. So I know you guys know all that stuff. I just want you to know, just to be reassured that we're going to continue on that path in conservative media. We're not letting go of it because we're people too. You know what I mean? We're not just, I'm not just a person on a screen here. I have a family as well, just like you guys do. And if you don't have a family, hey, you are a child of God. God made you on this earth. And that's what we want. We want to have our freedom, and we want to be able to worship how we want to worship. And we want to have the Second Amendment, get your hands off the guns, that kind of thing. Get your hands off the kids, get your hands off of our freedoms. Like that's, really at the end of the day, telling it like it is, right? And I think that's what conservative media is really about now, is telling it like it is, while the other side is telling it not like it is. Anyway, all right, let's go to a few of the sponsors as we await President Trump there at Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach, actually Palm Beach, Florida. Let's go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Of course, use the RSBN 10 promo code. Always good to get 10% off right out of the gate. And you can do that. If you're looking for mebendazole or hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, NAD+, how about a lot of the essentials, the vitamins, the supplements? There's an emergency kit. There's a number of kits, actually. So all you have to do is just go to allfamilypharmacy.com and then /RSBN. Check it out. See if there's something there that you would be interested in, because instead of going and waiting in pharmacy lines or trying to get a doctor's appointment, this is the place to get everything done. And it's efficient. It's fast. It'll get right to your door right after the approval from the doctors there at allfamilypharmacy.com. So a great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Same goes for callshe.com. If you're looking to bet or trade, or just check out some of the polls out there, whether it's about the sports, music, all the things, you can do that. And speaking of sports, I have to just poke a little fun at my colleague. So I'm a 49er fan. My family used to live in Sacramento back in the day. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, those kind of guys. Well, the 49ers won last night, and Robert McNeely, he's a Bears fan, but maybe I'll still root for the Bears if it's just the Bears in the Super Bowl. So anyway, we'll see what he has to say next time he's on the air about the 49er Bear game. But it's great to see Chicago doing some good things in the sports area. Now we need to see Chicago do some good things for the people of that city in Illinois. All right, so we have Call She. We just did All Family Pharmacy, and let's go to covepure.com/RSBN. Of course, drink pure, live pure, covepure.com/RSBN. If you're looking for a brand new water filter that's going to not only have the water taste better, it's healthier for you because it's 99.9% of the junk or the stuff that's in tap water is taken out because of this great filter. You also have an option that many filters, I don't think I've seen it for a filter, where you can have cold, warm, and hot water right there on the spot, right there from your on your kitchen counter. So 3 great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Great products for each. And check it out, covepure.com/RSBN. All right, it is 1:15 Eastern Time. If you'd like to follow us on Truth Social, it's at RSBN. If you'd like to follow us on X, it's at RSB Network. If you'd like to follow me on X, it's at Matthew US Media. On Truth Social, it's at Matthew Alvarez. Again, thank you guys for streaming in live right now as we continue to stand by for this coverage from Palm Beach, Florida. Of course, President Trump at Mar-a-Lago today, meeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So as soon as we see that live feed from Palm Beach, we'll take you right there. In the meantime, let's go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interviewed the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. This is RSBN Live on location in South Central Pennsylvania. For those of you that are from Pennsylvania, shout out to all of you, but all across the country, of course. Thank you so much for streaming in. Every time zone, of course, represented during these live broadcasts as we await President Trump and the leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. So we're hearing that the cameras are up and ready. And as soon as we see the actual live feed, we'll take you right there to Mar-a-Lago, as this is obviously a big meeting. This is the 6th time the Israeli prime minister has met with President Trump, whether here in our country or over there in the Middle East. So we will be bringing you this live coverage. Of course, anything we get when it comes to from start to finish. Sometimes you guys see the cameras, shaking as they move from location to location. You're going to get the raw live feed right here with us on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Also, will there be questions and answers from the president and from the prime minister? We'll see. We do know that yesterday, when Zelensky visited President Trump, the two leaders took questions from the press. They then went inside to the Mar-a-Lago dining room, and then there was only about a minute, 30 seconds of just a back and forth, just talking to the press there. The press then had to exit from that meeting room. And then after that, what we saw was the two leaders yesterday doing a joint press conference there when it comes to the media. So there was that went on for about 20 minutes. We did replay that earlier in this broadcast as well. So the question is, what will happen for this broadcast? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to track it here with you. Obviously, blue skies and some palm trees down there in Florida. That's why they call it a snowbird, right? A lot of people from the Northeast head down there for the winter, but if you can't do that, no worries. It's just great to be in America. It's great to have freedom in any state that you live in. Now, that can go down a rabbit trail, of course, when it comes to the amounts of freedom we have in various states, but maybe that'll be for another day. We all know where I'm coming from with that. And also, we just want our country to be, safe. It's simple as that. I mean, I could say a bazillion words. I can read a bunch of things, but really, guys, that's what we're looking for. I know you know that, especially through secure elections. And that's the voter reform that we're looking to see for our country. It's same-day voting. It's paper ballots. It's voter ID. It's proof of citizenship. It's all the things. Just listen to Mike Lindell when he talks about it, or Seth Keshel, or we've heard President Trump speak about it as well. I mean, for the midterm elections, which is 300 plus days away, we want to have that all in place in every county, every state, everywhere we go. We want that all taken care of for those midterms, of course, because we have really, let's look at it this way. As John Strand said, he's running for Congress in Florida. He said, this is our generation's 1776. And that's exactly right. I agree with that 100%, that the midterms of 2026 is our generation's 1776. We have to win that midterm. We have to continue to speak up. We have to continue to report truth. Again, I'll do 10 more shout outs if I have to for Nick Shirley, because That's exactly the journalism that we are all going to be stepping into, that we have to do to help save the country, to continue to show what the heck's going on out there. If the mainstream media is not going to do investigative journalism, which they don't, and they say they do sometimes, and it's not really investigative journalism when it comes to finding truth, right? It's just maybe a story here and there. But when it comes to conservative media, finding what's going on out there to let the American people know is the name of the game. And here's the crux of the matter. We know that in other countries that they have, censorship there because of communism or socialism, whatever. Why don't they want the truth to get out? Why don't they want the people to know? Why don't they want the people to speak about what they want to speak about? Why is that starting to creep into places like Ireland and England right now? I mean, these people want to be free. You think about it. If we traveled, say we all, jumped on a plane and had a flight over to Dublin, and then when we're done in Dublin, we'll go to London, and we met with true patriots of Ireland and England together. American patriots meeting with Irish patriots, meeting with patriots from England. Let's mix in another country. How about Hungary or Poland or El Salvador? Let's mix in whatever country that is on the right side of history right now. You'd hear from the people, and they would say that some in our government are trying to stop our freedoms, our freedom of speech, and all the things, right? Then let's all take a trip to Beijing, and let's go there. And we'd have to go undercover. The underground Christian churches, the ones that get, ransacked and all of the persecution. Let's go to Beijing together and say we're there and we speak to the people. A number of people probably wouldn't even want to speak to us because they would think we're some inside agent or something like that. But that's the stages that we're looking at here. Those are the stages that we're looking at right now. We know that China, you have no freedom of speech. In England and in Ireland, it's going away a little bit as you see that motorcade of President Trump, or at least the Israeli prime minister arriving to Mar-a-Lago. But then you come to the United States. That's what's at stake here, is just our freedom of speech alone. How about the right to keep and bear arms? We know that the Marxists and the communists and the socialists and all the isms like globalism wants to take away all of our constitutional rights. Why do I do what I do every day other than, yes, a paycheck? Thank God for a paycheck. But outside of that, I do this because I really see that I'm concerned. All right. How about that? I'll just tell it like it is. I have a concern that we may lose our constitutional rights in this country, and it's going to look a lot different. And I don't want that to happen. So what are we supposed to do to make that not happen? I believe we have to pray. I believe we have to work hard, get the vote out, speak up, and keep it going. And whatever makes you rest at night too. You know what I mean? You got to get through it. So, these are the kind of things that I like to speak about because it's really what's on the minds, I think, of a lot of people out there. And I just want to reflect, really a job of a journalist, I believe as well, is to reflect what he or she hears from the people. And that's what I've heard from people, whether directly in person, whether on the phone, whether on email, whether on text, whether on social media message, whatever it is. And even if it's not with me personally, it could be just watching what everybody else is saying as well. But right now, we still have the freedoms of at least freedom of speech when it comes to being able to be on the air here, not only at Right Side, but throughout our country. We have to get the right leaders in. We have to get the right leaders in. We have to make sure our elections are secure. And obviously, I know a number of you, I know there's at least one person that's going to agree with the next statement. We have to hold people accountable. I can't do it. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge, but I can speak about it. I'm an American citizen. Can I talk about it? So can you, right? I mean, that's what we need to save our country. We need these securing elections. We need the prosecutions for those that have broken the law, not just whimsical, hey, I'm just going to, you get an arrest, you get an arrest, you get a, no. Talking about the ones that actually did something against, whether it's President Trump, whether against we the people, whether it's subverting the will of the American people. These are all things that I've seen on online as well. So this is not just me. I'm just reflecting a lot of what you guys are saying as well. So let's go there to the motorcade in Florida right now.
Does anybody recognize this man? Not too many people. They've been very fair, actually, for the last 3 days.
President Trump, are you going to have a green light for another attack in Iran?
Mr. President, how quickly should you folks move to phase 2 of the peace plan for Gaza?
As quickly as we can, but there has to be a disarmament, that we have to disarm with Hamas. So one of the things we'll talk about, certainly, but there has to be a disarming of Hamas. Otherwise, very quickly, yeah.
Can you say anything more about the explosion in Venezuela that you mentioned in a radio interview? Did the military do that? Can you share any more details about
Well,
that?
it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Is that the only strike that the U.S. has done?
I don't want to comment on it.
President Trump, yesterday there was an explosion overnight and the Russians say that Ukraine tried to hit the residence of President Putin. Do you have any information?
No, I don't know about it, actually, and I don't, I just heard about it, actually, but I don't know about it. No.
Did you speak with
That would be too bad. That would not be good.
What was the outcome of your telephone call with President Putin this
I had a very good talk this morning. I waited till this morning because it was pretty late by the time we finished, like 2:30 in Russia, 2:30 in the morning. And we had a very good talk. We spoke at 8 o'clock in the morning hour time, and it was a very productive talk. I mean, we have a few very thorny issues, as you can imagine. He knows about thorny issues probably better than anybody in the world, but it's working out. We have a couple of issues that we're going to get resolved, hopefully, and if we get them resolved, you're going to have peace. You're going to have Ukraine losing 26,000 soldiers a month. Can you believe it? A month, 26,000 young, beautiful soldiers, and plus some people in Kiev, and relatively small, but a lot, still people, and it's a lot of people. But 26,000 soldiers were killed last month. Yes, please.
President Trump, are you going to allow Turkish forces, or do you expect Turkish forces to be stationed in Gaza?
So I have a great relationship with President Erdogan, and we'll be talking about it. And if it's good, I think that's good. And a lot will be having to do with Bibi. We're going to be talking about that. But Turkey's been great, and he's been, excellent as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about you. To me, he's been very good.
Can we get another question?
Sure.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu and how important it is for you to see him be pardoned by the Israeli president?
Look, he's a wartime prime minister. He's done a phenomenal job. He's taken Israel through a very dangerous period of trauma. Israel, with other people, might not exist right now, if you want to know the truth. That's a pretty big statement, but it's true. I feel that. You had the wrong prime minister. Israel right now would not exist because they were met with a force the likes of which very few countries could have handled. And we worked together, and we were extremely victorious, to put it mildly. Now I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them, but hopefully that's not happening. I heard Iran wants to make a deal. If they want to make a deal, that's much smarter. They could have made a deal the last time before we went through, a big attack on them, and they decided not to make the deal. They wish they made that deal. So I think, again, they should make a deal. They want to make a deal, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Yeah, please.
Mr. Trump, WMLH 24 News Israel. Would you support the overthrow of the Iranian regime?
Who?
Iranian regime.
I'm not going to talk about overthrow of a regime. They've got a lot of problems in Iran. They have tremendous inflation. Their economy is bust. Their economy is no good. And I know that people aren't so happy, but don't forget, every time they have a riot or somebody forms a group, little or big, they start shooting people. They kill people. And the people tend to I've watched this for years. There's tremendous discontent. They form 100,000, 200,000 people. All of a sudden, people start getting shot. And that group disbanded pretty quickly. So I've watched it for years. They're vicious, vicious people. Yeah.
Mr. President, will you support an attack, Israeli attack on Iran if Iran will not have a deal? If Iran will continue with their ballistic missiles and also nuclear weapons?
If they will continue with the missiles, yes. The nuclear, fast. Okay? One will be yes, absolutely. The other was, we'll do it immediately.
Mr. President, one of us from Channel 12 News. What are your plans regarding Gaza for the next few weeks?
Well, we're going to be dealing on Gaza. That's why this very great prime minister is here right now. We're talking about Gaza. We're talking about a lot of things. We have about 5 major subjects that we're discussing, and Gaza will be one of those subjects.
Mr. President, can you guarantee that the last hostages on Philip will be released before we continue to the second phase of the Gaza plan?
Well, let's put it this way. Every hostage just about that's been released was released because of me, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, my whole team, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth. They were all released because of us. None were released in the Biden administration. None. They were all released because of us. Then we had a lack of releases with respect to the dead. And all of a sudden they started coming back because I said, nope. You said you were going to. We have one wonderful young man whose parents are right now inside. And he's, what beautiful parents, a beautiful brother, sister, and like a beautiful family, and they're waiting for their son. It's the only one left, and we're doing everything we can to get his body back. And the parents just said, hopefully he's alive. And I said, I'd love you to think that way. Okay? So we're doing everything we can.
Do you have President Trump?
But then think of it. Out of all of these people, and I'm not just talking about the final 20.
Right.
Look at all of the people. What do you think the total number is?
255.
255.
254 came out, one more.
Think of that. And we got them all.
President Trump.
Nobody else got them.
President Trump, does the reconstruction of Gaza? President Trump, does the reconstruction of
Hold on 1
Gaza?
second. Y'all do you. Just let her go.
Does the reconstruction of Gaza will begin even before Hamas is disarmed?
I think it's going to begin pretty soon, yeah.
Before Hamas
He's looking forward to it, so am I. Look, what a mess. What a mess it is. And it's been a mess for centuries. Really. It's been a mess for a long time. It's seems to be born for that, but we're gonna straighten it out. No, we're already starting certain things. We're doing things for sanitary conditions and others. But Gaza's a tough place. You know the expression, it's a tough neighborhood. That's truly a tough neighborhood. Yeah, you had a question in the back? Go ahead. Yeah, please, go ahead.
I'll ask you about the relationship between you and the Prime Minister.
What about it?
They said that there is no relationship, good relationship between you.
I don't think it can be better. We just won a big war together. You know, if we didn't beat Iran, you wouldn't have had peace in the Middle East because nobody would have been able, the Arab countries who have been fantastic, would not have been able to make a deal. If we didn't wipe out their nuclear, we wiped it out. If we didn't wipe out with our beautiful B-2 bombers, if we didn't, and we sent a lot of Tomahawks in there also, by the way, from a submarine.
And what about the pardon that the President of Israel needs to give the Prime Minister?
A pardon?
The pardon.
Oh, I think he will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way. You can't do better than that, right? Please.
Mr. President, can I follow up on Venezuela? Was the facility taken out by the U.S. military, or was it another entity like the CIA?
It was well, I don't want to say that. I know exactly who it was, but I don't want to say who it was. But you know, it was along the shore.
Mr. President, have you or anyone in your administration talked to Maduro in recent days?
Well, I spoke to him.
Recently?
Pretty recent. Reasonably, but nothing much comes of it. Yeah.
Mr. President, can you explain the importance?
You have to understand what he's done. They've sent billions of dollars of drugs in, but maybe just as bad, they've sent hundreds of thousands of people in from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions and insane asylums. The drug lords, the drug dealers were all sent into our country. But think of it, what he's done. Tren de Aragua, probably the worst gang. They cut off people's fingers. One man made a phone call to complain about them. He cut off their hand. They cut off his hand. Don't ever make a phone call again. We'll cut off your other hand. After that, we'll kill you, they said. That was in Colorado. And now they sent in all of the bad ones. They sent in some bad people. And that to me was just terrible. And they send in drugs. Now, I will say this. 97% of the drugs coming in by sea stopped. We're trying to figure out who the other 3% are. They have a hard time getting people to pilot those boats. But 97% of the drugs coming in by the ocean, by the sea, by water, are gone. Every boat that we take out, we save 25,000 lives of Americans. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you. We're going to have a big meeting, and we'll see you in a couple of hours if you'd like. And if you'd like, you can come up and have lunch like you did yesterday. Would you like that or not? Do you want that?
Oh, yes.
Because some of them think it's terrible. It's a bribe. But, you know, a bribe for $25, I don't know. If you'd like, you can go. And if you don't, you can stand in a driveway and melt. All right? But if you want, will you work on that, Margot? Yes, sir. Is Margot doing a good job?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
She's a star. She's too nice. Her only problem, she's too nice to you. And you're not nice to us, but that's okay. Margot, take them up and have a beautiful lunch, and we'll see you later.
Are you worried that the strike, the alleged strike on Putin's residence, could scuttle these?
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good. I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. It's no good. It's no good.
Russian officials.
Don't forget, you know, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, you know, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
Do you believe the president?
But don't you have U.S. intelligence service?
What?
Don't you have U.S. intelligence services that monitor that region very closely? Is there any evidence?
Well,
that the
it came out. Well, we'll find out. I mean, you're saying maybe the attack didn't take place. It's possible too, I guess. But President Putin told me this morning it did.
One question, Mr. President. Can you expound on the importance of a strong relationship with the State of Israel? And Mr. Prime Minister, you called President Trump the strongest friend for the State of Israel. You've worked with numerous administrations, numerous presidents. Can you expound on that? What makes President Trump such a strong friend for the State of Israel?
What do you go first?
I'll say it again and again and again. We've never had a friend like President Trump in the White House. It's not even close. And I think you can judge that by not merely by the frequency of our meetings, but by the content and the intensity. I think Israel is very blessed to have President Trump leading the United States, and I'll say leading the free world at this time. I think it's not merely Israel's great fortune, I think it's the world's great fortune.
Well, I just want to say that it's very important who the Prime Minister and President of Israel is. We have a great relationship. It was an honor to speak before your leaders. That was a great honor for me. I think it has not happened before, or something they told me. But the relationship's been extraordinary, and Bibi's a strong man. He can be very difficult on occasion, but you need a strong man. If you had a weak man, you wouldn't have Israel right now. Israel would have been, you know, Israel with most other leaders would not exist today. They would not exist. And now they're stronger than ever. Yeah, please.
Are you going to ask Netanyahu to sign this agreement with Syria?
Well, I hope he's going to get along with Syria, because the new president of Syria is working very hard to do a good job. He really is. I know he's a tough cookie, and he's, you know, you're not going to get a choir boy to lead Syria. That's the one thing I will say. So I hope they're going to get along, because, you know, I dropped the sanctions on Syria because otherwise they wouldn't have had a chance. We want to see Syria survive. So we're going to be talking about Syria too. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good time. Go have a good lunch.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Prime Minister Netanyahu,
Thank
there
you.
is a lot of facts regarding
You know, after you hear these things, I think better to quit now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so you're watching Right Side Broadcasting Network live coverage from Mar-a-Lago, of course, Palm Beach, Florida, as this is the sixth meeting between the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump for President Trump's second term. So 6 meetings in this first almost year of President Trump's first term. So now, just as yesterday, if you watched the coverage here on Right Side, Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine yesterday, and the president walked into that dining room, and there was about a minute 30 second video there of the leaders seated at the table across from each other, and then the press was asked to leave. So we may see that once again here on Right Side. So we'll continue to stand by for that clip of live video. Also, on top of that, what happened after that lunch that was held there, there was a joint press conference between both Zelensky and President Trump. So that may happen as well. So if it's the same schedule as yesterday, that's what we'll be seeing here. On top of that, you'll see the live dining room kind of lunch kind of chat that happens there. And then most likely we'll be ending our broadcast as the next live opportunity won't be for several hours if it's similar to yesterday. And what we will do is we upload, of course, all of those videos to you so you can see it, whether it's Rumble or on True Social or X or our app, wherever you watch, YouTube, of course. So we just want to thank you guys so much for live streaming in for this Right Side Broadcasting Network coverage. If you want to see a number of other vantage points or talking points out there, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking about this meeting as well on X, if you want to check that out. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is the truth of the matter. What's going on in our world? What's going on in our country? And of course, we like to cover everything like you see here, live wall to wall when it comes to that 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and also the Southern White House when President Trump is down there in Palm Beach, Florida. I'm told per the Jerusalem Post that, again, this is the 6th meeting between the two leaders. Advancing President Trump's plan for the Gaza Strip is one of the topics, according to the Jerusalem Post, that will be discussed today. Also, the Iranian ballistic missile program, the current situation in Lebanon, and the U.S.-Israel security assistance agreement. So those are some of the topics. You heard a little bit of it right there with the Q&A from the reporters. So it seems that what we're seeing is 2 different press conferences with President Trump. That happened yesterday with Zelensky outside of Mar-a-Lago, just like you saw there with the leader of Israel. And then later in the day yesterday, you saw that joint press conference where both leaders stood at the podium and took questions. So that may be exactly what we see again here with Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump live from Mar-a-Lago as it's December 29th. We're only a couple days away from 2026. Of course, 2026, buckle those seatbelts because we know that there's a lot going to happen in 26. We have the midterm elections, obviously super important. We have our birthday here in the country, 250 years young on July 4th, 2026. There's a lot going on just in a few days starting up with 2026. So we'll be covering it here on Right Side Broadcasting Network and, of course, through conservative media, as there are a lot of great people doing great work on X and on True Social that are really reflecting truth. And I think that's the main thing that we should be held account to here at Right Side and any conservative media network is all about reflecting and reporting what's happening in context and truth, the commentary, the analysis based on something really, really rocket science here, guys. Common sense. Common sense. That's really what it's about. And unfortunately, over the past several decades on the left side of history, all those newsmen and newswomen out there, they might look the part, they might have the good lights and all the cool things, but they've been selling you a bill of goods, as my dad used to say. You don't want to be sold a bill of goods. We're done with that. We only want to resonate with truth and the people that speak truth. And we want people that are common sense leaders, whether it's in media or politicians or whoever it is out there. So, and I know a lot of you agree with that. If you don't agree with that, we all have a right to our opinion, of course. But we do know that we spoke with a number of people in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania earlier. It's about a 2-minute video. I think we might be able to get that in if we don't have the live video from Mar-a-Lago, where it's the dining room section of Mar-a-Lago where the two leaders are sitting. So, Director, can we go to the video from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania earlier today? I spoke with 2 American patriots there. It's only a couple-minute video long. Maybe we can go to that right now. And then as soon as we see that live feed there with the president and the prime minister of Israel, we'll take you there. Even if it's in the middle of this next video we're about to play, it's only about a couple minutes long, but definitely spent some time in Gettysburg this morning as I'm based right now during the holidays in South Central Pennsylvania, my home state, my wife's home state, and great people in Pennsylvania. We're hoping to see Philadelphia and some parts of Pittsburgh go red. We'll see. But let's take a look at some interviews from earlier today in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
My biggest concern is what the future looks like for my son and his family. You know, what's he going to raise his children into? And that's a huge concern of mine. And I don't like the direction we were heading. And it feels like we're finally getting back on the right course of smaller government, more rights to the American citizens and to the taxpayers. Our justice system needs a lot of work. And too many people that you can say the bad guys can get off with a slap on their wrist and go do it again and again and again. And that's what needs to change.
You're not getting, and there's no accountability, and I want to see accountability, and I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. I want accountability if you do something wrong. We should be able to say what we want to say, and if you disagree, you can disagree. I don't mind if you disagree. You know, I want to, you know, if you have guns, you ought to be able to keep your guns, and, you know, and not be able to be afraid. Don't be afraid to walk into the grocery store when you want to get groceries. We'd lose a lot of our rights, I think. And if the wrong people get in charge, and there's wrong people on both sides of the aisle too. I mean, I don't really say, oh, well, Republicans are just great, because there's some that aren't. You know, and the Democrat Party of today is not like it was back when JFK was alive. It's not the same thing. I mean, the Constitution, the Founding Fathers knew what they were doing. You know, and they weren't political really. They were just men they were just common people. And they paid a heavy price, a lot of them, for what they did. You know, signing that paper, you know, and you know, we broke from the British, and that's what we needed to do. And here's something.
I don't have any audio.
But to both of them, I said, we're going to cut you off, no more trade. Then I put 200% tariffs on. The next day they called. We looked, 35 years of fighting, and they stopped. Do I get credit for it? No. They gave me. I did 8 of them. India. How about India and Pakistan? And then, so I did 8 of them. And then I'll tell you the rest of it. How are you doing? Okay.
Yes, sir.
You're going to all be outside, the beautiful sun. Good. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, sir.
is a very good group. We've made a lot of progress already. We had about a 5-minute meeting, and we've already settled about 3 of the difficulties. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
They can't go, guys. They can't not moving. Well, they can't. But just think so.
Dining room aspect of the lunch just for a couple minutes. Yesterday, after that happened, several hours later, there was a joint press conference with Vladimir Zelensky and President Trump as the 2 leaders stood at those 2 podiums. Most likely, that's what's going to happen today. So what we'll do is this. We're going to replay something, especially for those of you that just joined us right now. We're going to replay that Q&A with President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. It's about 15 minutes long. So what we'll do is this. If we see any other live feed from Mar-a-Lago, we'll cut to that. In the meantime, let's watch that 15-minute video of the Q&A just in case you missed it. Also, you can stick with us just in case there's something that is live right after it as well. If there's not, we'll probably be wrapping the broadcast for the day, but we'll still upload the joint press conference that may happen several hours from now. Again, my name is Matthew Alvarez. This is Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's return to Mar-a-Lago for those of you just joining us and watch the 2 leaders take questions from the press.
But I believe we are not going
Does anybody recognize this man? Not too many people.
But I believe we are not going But I believe we are not
Does anybody recognize this man? Not too many people. They've been very fair, actually, for the last 3 days.
President Trump, are you going to have a green light for another attack in Iraq?
Mr. President, Mr. President, how quickly do you hope to move to phase 2 of the peace plan for Gaza? And are you worried that Israel could be slow walking?
But there has to be a disarmament, that we have to disarm with Hamas. So one of the things we'll talk about certainly, but there has to be a disarming of Hamas. Very quickly, yeah.
Can you say anything more about the explosion in Venezuela that you mentioned in a radio interview? Did the military do that? Can you share any more details about
Well,
that?
it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Is that the only strike that the U.S. has done?
I don't want to comment on it.
President Trump, yesterday there was an explosion overnight and the Russians say that Ukraine tried to hit the residence of President Putin. Do you have any information?
No, I don't know about it, actually, and I don't, I just heard about it, actually, but I don't know about it. No.
Did you speak with
That would be too bad. That would not be good.
What was the outcome of your telephone call with President Putin this
I had a very good talk this morning. I waited till this morning because it was pretty late by the time we finished, like 2:30 in Russia, 2:30 in the morning. And we had a very good talk. We spoke at 8 o'clock in the morning hour time, and it was a very productive talk. I mean, we have a few very thorny issues, as you can imagine. He knows about thorny issues probably better than anybody in the world, but it's working out. We have a couple of issues that we're going to get resolved, hopefully, and if we get them resolved, you're going to have peace. You're going to have Ukraine losing 26,000 soldiers a month. Can you believe it? A month, 26,000 young, beautiful soldiers, and plus some people in Kiev, and relatively small, but a lot, still people, and it's a lot of people. But 26,000 soldiers were killed last month. Yes, please.
President Trump, are you going to allow Turkish forces, or do you expect Turkish forces to be stationed in Gaza?
So I have a great relationship with President Erdogan, and we'll be talking about it. And if it's good, I think that's good. And a lot will be having to do with Bibi. We're going to be talking about that. But Turkey's been great, and he's been, excellent as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about you. To me, he's been very good.
Can we get another question from Israel?
Sure.
Yes. Mr. President, can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu and how important it is for you to see him be pardoned by the Israeli president?
Look, he's a wartime prime minister. He's done a phenomenal job. He's taken Israel through a very dangerous period of trauma. Israel, with other people, might not exist right now, if you want to know the truth. That's a pretty big statement, but it's true. I feel that. You had the wrong prime minister. Israel right now would not exist because they were met with a force the likes of which very few countries could have handled, and we worked together, and we were extremely victorious, to put it mildly. Now I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them, but hopefully that's not happening. I heard Iran wants to make a deal. If they want to make a deal, that's much smarter. They could have made a deal the last time before we went through, a big attack on them, and they decided not to make the deal. They wish they made that deal. So I think, again, they should make a deal. They want to make a deal, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Yeah, please.
Mr. Trump, WMLH 24 News Israel. Would you support the overthrow of the Iranian regime?
Who?
Iranian regime.
I'm not going to talk about overthrow of a regime. They've got a lot of problems in Iran. They have tremendous inflation. Their economy is bust. Their economy is no good. And I know that people aren't so happy, but don't forget, every time they have a riot or somebody forms a group, little or big, they start shooting people. They kill people. And the people tend to... I've watched this for years. There's tremendous discontent. They form 100,000, 200,000 people, all of a sudden people start getting shot, and that group disbanded pretty quickly. So I've watched it for years. They're vicious, vicious people. Yeah.
Mr. President, Bilateral want to know, will you support an attack, Israeli attack on Iran if Iran will not have a deal? If Iran will continue with their ballistic missiles and also nuclear weapons?
If they will continue with the missiles, yes. The nuclear, fast. Okay. One will be yes, absolutely. The other was, we'll do it immediately.
Mr. President, one of us from Channel 12 News. What are your plans regarding Gaza for the next few weeks?
Well, we're going to be dealing on Gaza. That's why this very great prime minister is here right now. We're talking about Gaza. We're talking about a lot of things. We have about 5 major subjects that we're discussing, and Gaza will be one of those subjects.
Mr. President, can you guarantee that the last hostages, Anne Philip, will be released before we continue to the second phase of the Gaza plan?
Well, let's put it this way. Every hostage just about that's been released was released because of me, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, my whole team, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth. They were all released because of us. None were released in the Biden administration, none. They were all released because of us. Then we had a lack of releases with respect to the dead. And all of a sudden they started coming back because I said, nope, you said you were going to. We have one wonderful young man whose parents are right now inside. And he's, what beautiful parents, a beautiful brother, sister, and like a beautiful family, and they're waiting for their son. It's the only one left, and we're doing everything we can to get his body back. And the parents just said, hopefully he's alive. And I said, I'd love you to think that way. Okay? So we're doing everything we can.
Do you have President Trump?
But then think of it. Out of all of these people, and I'm not just talking about the final 20.
Right.
Look at all of the people. What do you think the total number is?
255.
255.
254 came out, one more.
Think of that. And we got them all.
President Trump.
Nobody else got them.
President Trump, does the reconstruction of Gaza, President Trump, does the reconstruction of
Hold on 1
Gaza,
second. Y'all do you. Just let her go.
does the reconstruction of Gaza will begin even before Hamas is disarmed?
I think it's going to begin pretty soon, yeah.
Before Hamas is
He's
disarmed?
looking forward to it, so am I. Look, what a mess. What a mess it is. And it's been a mess for centuries. Really. It's been a mess for a long time. It's seems to be born for that. We're gonna straighten it out. No, we're already starting certain things. We're doing things for sanitary conditions and others. But Gaza's a tough place. You know the expression, it's a tough neighborhood. It's truly a tough neighborhood. Yeah, you had a question in the back? Go ahead. Yeah, please, go ahead.
I'll ask about the relationship between you and the Prime Minister.
What about it?
They said that there is no relationship, good relationship between you.
I don't think it can be better. We just won a big war together. You know, if we didn't beat Iran, you wouldn't have had peace in the Middle East because nobody would have been able, the Arab countries who have been fantastic would not have been able to make a deal. If we didn't wipe out their nuclear, we wiped it out. If we didn't wipe out with our beautiful B-2 bombers, if we didn't, and we sent a lot of Tomahawks in there also, by the way, from a submarine.
And what about the pardon that the President of Israel needs to give the Prime Minister?
A pardon?
The pardon.
Oh, I think he will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way.
Mr.
You
President,
can't do better than that, right? Please.
Mr. President, can I follow up on Venezuela? Was the facility taken out by the U.S. military, or was it another entity like the CIA?
It was well, I don't want to say that. I know exactly who it was, but I don't want to say who it was. But you know, it was along the shore.
Mr. President, have you or anyone in your administration talked to Maduro in recent days?
Well, I spoke to him.
Recently?
Pretty recent. Reasonably, but nothing much comes of it. Yeah.
Mr. President, can you explain the importance
You have to understand what he's done. They've sent billions of dollars of drugs in. But maybe just as bad, they've sent hundreds of thousands of people in from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions and insane asylums, the drug lords, the drug dealers. were all sent into our country. But think of it, what he's done. Tren de Aragua, probably the worst gang. They cut off people's fingers. One man made a phone call to complain about them. He cut off their hand. They cut off his hand. Don't ever make a phone call again. We'll cut off your other hand. After that, we'll kill you, they said. That was in Colorado. And now they sent in all of the bad ones. They sent in some bad people. And that to me was just terrible. And they send in drugs. Now, I will say this, 97% of the drugs coming in by sea stopped. We're trying to figure out who the other 3% are. They have a hard time getting people to pilot those boats. But 97% of the drugs coming in by the ocean, by the sea, by water, are gone. Every boat that we take out, we save 25,000 lives of Americans. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you. We're going to have a big meeting, and we'll see you in a couple of hours if you'd like. And if you'd like, you can come up and have lunch like you did yesterday. Would you like that or not? Do you want that?
Oh, yes.
Because some of them think it's terrible. It's a bribe. But, you know, a bribe for $25, I don't know. If you'd like, you can go. And if you don't, you can stand in a driveway and melt. All right? But if you want, will you work on that, Margot? Yes, sir. Is Margot doing a good job?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
She's a star. She's too nice. Her only problem, she's too nice to you. And you're not nice to us, but that's okay. Margot, take them up and have a beautiful lunch, and we'll see you later.
Are you worried that the strike, the alleged strike on Putin's residence, could scuttle these?
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good. I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. It's no good. It's no good.
Russian officials.
Don't forget, you know, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, you know, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they're offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
Do you not have U.S. intelligence services?
What?
Don't you have U.S. intelligence services that monitor that region very closely? Is there any evidence?
Well,
that
it came out. It came out. Well, we'll find out. I mean, you're saying maybe the attack didn't take place. It's possible too, I guess. But President Putin told me this morning it did.
One question, Mr. President. Can you expound on the importance of a strong relationship with the State of Israel? And Mr. Prime Minister, you called President Trump the strongest friend for the State of Israel. You've worked with numerous administrations, numerous presidents. Can you expound on that? What makes President Trump such a strong friend for the State of Israel?
Why don't you go first?
I'll say it again and again and again. We've never had a friend like President Trump in the White House. It's not even close. And I think you can judge that by not merely by the frequency of our meetings, but by the content and the intensity. I think Israel is very blessed to have President Trump leading the United States, and I'll say leading the free world at this time. I think it's not merely Israel's great fortune, I think it's the world's great fortune.
Well, I just want to say that it's very important who the Prime Minister and President of Israel is. We have a great relationship. It was an honor to speak before your leaders. That was a great honor for me. I think it has not happened before, or something they told me. But the relationship's been extraordinary, and Bibi's a strong man. He can be very difficult on occasion, but you need a strong man. If you had a weak man, you wouldn't have Israel right now. Israel would have been, you know, Israel with most other leaders would not exist today. They would not exist. And now they're stronger than ever. Yeah, please.
Are you going to ask Netanyahu to sign an agreement with Syria?
Well, I hope he's going to get along with Syria, because the new president of Syria is working very hard to do a good job. He really is. I know he's a tough cookie, and he's, you know, you're not going to get a choir boy to lead Syria. That's the one thing I will say. So I hope they're going to get along, because, you know, I dropped the sanctions on Syria because otherwise they wouldn't have had a chance. We want to see Syria survive. So we're going to be talking about Syria too. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good time. Go have a good lunch.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Prime Minister Netanyahu,
Thank
there's a lot of facts.
You know, after you hear these things, I think better to quit now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Sorry, did I mess you up?
Oh no, I disrespected him.
And as you see there on the top right of your screen earlier, it said moments ago. So that was within the hour outside of Mar-a-Lago as President Trump met with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, you saw a little bit of that minute to 2 minutes live inside the dining room as well at Mar-a-Lago. Now, what happened yesterday after the lunch between Zelensky and President Trump, several hours later, we saw the joint press conference between the two leaders. Most likely, that will be the same phase 3 of live coverage today. If it's going to be several hours from now, what we'll do is we're going to upload that video just like we did yesterday for the joint press conference. So before we wrap this broadcast, though, I just want to talk about a couple things and just end with a video that you may have already seen throughout this broadcast, of course, but it's all about, our American soldiers in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the Confederacy, the Union. There were more than 50,000 casualties in 3 days, July 1st through the 3rd, 1863. And they fought and they died for this country. And we saw what Abraham Lincoln said. He said, it's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this land. He said that during that Gettysburg address. I just want to point out the map here, of course. We're located in south central Pennsylvania today. Gettysburg, right in that vicinity. But all of you guys watching throughout this whole country, of course, thank you so much for watching here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So we're going to end with that video from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It's all about we the people in this United States of America. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Here's that video, and have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed, so join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.